Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And today we are talking about The Thing About Pam.
Not Something About Mary.
No. No.
The Thing About Pam.
The Thing About Pam, episode 1. She's a good friend. Pam Hupp. She's a piece of work.
Renee Zellweger, you are a genius.
I mean...
The way she played this was so amazing.
And again, it's a dark comedy. And I think people don't get it.
It's dark comedy enough. I'm snorting. It was great. It was funny.
mean, and so we're recording this. Not all the episodes are out.
No.
But by the time this releases, all of them will be.
Oh, okay.
Because there's only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So, confession time. We don't record this the day before we release it because I have too much to do.
We all. And it takes time to produce this.
It does.
You are a fantastic editor. And you deserve the time.
Well, thank you. I do need a little bit of time to be able to do that. And and if you're joining us from the mountains and the sea, here's a little gift for you. So, before we do that, did you make it to the end of the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window?
I haven't made it to the end yet, but
okay.
I'm close.
Okay.
I'm close.
Okay, we'll revisit that next time then, because I want to hear your opinion on the wild and ridiculous
the whole
last
thing is
episode.
Wild and ridiculous.
The whole thing is wild and ridiculous. And the last episode, just shoots into the stratosphere. Yeah, rings the bell.
I can't wait. I have giggled my way through so much. And I will tell you, my husband watched the first episode and didn't get it.
Yeah, he was out.
Well, I mean, not only that, he didn't get it. He didn't understand it was funny. Aww. Right? He did not at all. And so he thought it was a true, serious crime show. And so he thought it was stupid. And I was like... You were almost there, Jägermeister. There's a reason why I say that. We had some friends, and their dog was named Jägermeister.
Okay.
Called him Jaeger. And he was almost there all the time. Aww. So he hated the rain. And so when it rains, he wouldn't go outside to go potty, but he knew he was supposed to. So one day we were there and it was raining and she opened the sliding door and said, "Go outside." And you could tell he was hesitant. And so he went halfway out and then relieved himself. And you can figure out which half was not out. Yeah. And I was like, he was so close. Uh-huh. And that's how I feel describes many things, and this was one of them.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, he was so
he was
peeing just inside the doorway when it came to the show.
If he had just turned around and backed his way out, he'd have been intelligent, brilliant. We would have praised him. Instead, he was a really dumb dog. He was so close. A Jaeger moment.
Yeah, a Jaeger moment. That's there. That's fine. And you know what? Dark comedy isn't for everybody, True. Which is why it surprises me so much when these really big names, Netflix, NBC, really attempt this stuff. And it makes me wonder, I think the executives must get it and they think everybody else gets it, but they really don't.
No, but I think more do. Post-pandemic, I think a lot of people embraced dark comedy, and because of the civil unrest, the issues we had as a society, and by civil unrest, I don't mean a bad connotation. I mean good unrest, shaking up the status quo because it needs to change kind of unrest. And a lot of that stuff was going on, and I think satire kind of retook its place.
Yeah, because a lot of people who don't like dark comedy really Don't Look Up.
Right.
And but it's a little more satirical.
Yeah, it is.
And a little more obvious.
Right. Whereas
also a movie.
True.
Not a series.
I think you've nailed it.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this cast. You mentioned Renee Zellweger. So this is I said last time that this was her first television role. And that's not exactly true. It's her first broadcast television role. She has done one other series for television for Netflix.
What am I missing?
It's called What If? And it was supposed to be an anthology series where each season had similar themes, but a different story.
Okay.
And so I watched it to see if it should be the next thing that we cover. And I don't think it should be. But it's also kind of funny in its ridiculousness. And it's like over the top. But it was reasonably fun. But what if she played Anne Montgomery? Of course, she's best known for Bridget Jones's Diary.
Yeah.
And Chicago. Yeah.
I think of her as from
Jerry Maguire.
Yep.
Then we have Josh Duhamel, who plays Joel Schwartz, the attorney. And his biggest role is Las Vegas, that ran from 2003 to 2008. But he was also in a show called Jupiter's Legacy that ran for 8 episodes. The Blade Runner TV show that I don't think lasted very long. But yeah, you make face. You're not a big fan of Blade Runner, are you?
I'm not.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be. I'm the type that ought to. And yet for some reason...
You are the type that ought to appreciate Blade Runner, and your husband's the type who ought not to appreciate Blade Runner. And for that reason, I can never quite pick out what either one of you is going to really like.
Well, because he loves Blade Runner with a passion.
He loves Blade Runner, and you don't like it at all.
Yeah, it's long and slow, and that's what he likes. There's an artsiness to the sci-fi.
I loved the artsiness of the sci-fi, but I can see how it wouldn't translate well to a television show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
That would be hard.
All right. So Judy Greer plays Leah Ascii, the district attorney, and she's mostly a comedic actress. She was in 13 Going on 30 and Ant-Man and Arrested Development. Katie Mixon plays Betsy Faria, and she was in American Housewife for 5 years. She was a regular on Mike and Molly and Eastbound and Down. So she's got some comedic moments, but I thought she was super fun in this. Glenn Fleshler plays Russ Faria. He's in Barry, Billions, Boardwalk Empire, The Following.
Yeah.
Sean Bridgers plays Mark Hupp. And he's done lots of guest spots, Justified, Heart of Dixie, The Mentalist. And then he was also on a TV series called Get Shorty, which I remember loving that movie. And I don't think I ever watched the television show.
No, me either.
And then, of course, we have Keith Morrison of Dateline fame doing the voiceover as he did in the podcast. And I'm like, see, this is what makes it really funny to me.
Oh, the voiceover is awesome.
It's that it really wouldn't be nearly as funny with just Renee Zellweger amping up that little bit.
It's true that voiceover, and it's not just newsy. It feels, because it's at Christmas, December 27th. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Because it's at Christmas, he has this lilt to his voice, the way that you're okay, what's the animated film? Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
There you go.
He has that cadence. So it feels like he's narrating a Christmas film. A Christmas story of some sort.
It's a feel-good story about murder.
There should be bells and things. So he has that kind of tone on top of this whole thing, and it always sends me over. It's fantastic. I
thought it was really, really funny.
Yeah.
But, anyway, let's recap and then we'll get to what critics thought of it.
Do it.
All right. So it opens with the murder of Betsy Faria, and her husband finds her body stabbed some 55 times and with the murder weapon still lodged in her body at their home.
I shouldn't laugh so hard at
but
I'm laughing so hard.
Yes. I laugh because Pam just left it. Anyway, we'll get there. There's so much to talk about. All right, so we learn immediately that Betsy's husband, Russ, while statistically the most obvious suspect, is really not the murderer. So we meet Pam. She claims to be successful, happy, caring. It all seems pretty disingenuous, but we kind of get the impression that these are lies she's telling not only to us, but to herself. The story is moved along and lightened a bit by Keith Morrison's voiceover. And while we don't see the murder take place, we see Pam insinuating herself into situations where she isn't wanted beforehand and making calls to establish an alibi afterwards. So Pam makes sure to paint a bleak picture of the Faria's relationship when she talks to police and to confirm the unfounded suspicions that police have towards Russ, despite his solid alibi. So the voice-over ending really wraps it up just right. She's family. She's there for you. She's your neighbor. She's your friend from church. She's the one you'll never see coming. But that's the thing about Pam. Nice. It's so good. I mean, and that I can see how the showrunners would have been really happy with this and maybe really surprised when it got 43% from both critics and audiences on Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
43%.
What?
And it's not even all out. It's not like we can blame it on the ending.
Okay, tell me, what did they not like? These picky people.
Daniel Dario from Variety, little more than NBC cross promotion, which I'm like, well, that's kind of fair.
Okay.
There's Dateline episodes. There's a podcast about it. I get it. I get how you can see it that way. But I think this was another way to really kind of make this fun.
I will say something that's maybe related. I've never seen so many ads in a Hulu episode.
Okay.
Oh. It was almost annoying.
Okay.
I mean...
See, and I didn't see that because I pay the extra $4 or $5 a month to not have any ads in Hulu.
And we don't. So
yeah.
I'm very used to them. I watch my Golden Girls on Hulu every night. Woohoo! Say Golden. And there's not near as many ads.
Okay.
Now, maybe it's because they know that all of us Golden Girls fans are going to stream those episodes over and over and over again. But I'm going to tell you, every episode... every advertisement break had so many more ads than like Golden Girls or whatever. And they were longer. So it was like you had like some that were 30 seconds or whatever, but multiples that were like a minute or 2 minutes. I was like, what?
That's a lot.
A lot of ads.
Okay.
A lot of ads.
Okay.
So, all right,
so maybe that's fair.
Maybe fair.
Brian Lowry of CNN said it's true crime experiment that clearly wants to be the next Fargo and doesn't get there. I'm like, it's limited. So, and it's shorter than Fargo.
I think it's its own thing.
Yeah, I think it's different, but
I think it's different, but I guess I can see it.
The Thing About Pam does an impressive job translating an addictive tale to the small screen, said Gwen Ihnat from AV Club. So I want to include some positive ones in there where they exist. Mm-hmm. Matt Roosh of TV Insider said the thing about Pam, sadly, is that despite her crimes, she's not all that interesting. Like, I thought I
have so many things about her that is interesting.
She is fascinating and messed up.
Yeah. She does some weird things.
She's a serial killer. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah, like who uses a comb like that in the morning? Nobody uses a comb like that, and nobody has it in their freaking side drawer, like nestled in a specific space between like a book and something. That's not good for your hair burst in the morning. Like, just it's not. It's a bad comb.
Bad at murder. Bad at.
She had other weird things that she did too, like weird places that she had things, and it was like weird. She's strange. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Connie loved the series, but Claire didn't even make it through the first episode.
No.
So I'm like, I think different strokes for different folks.
Right.
You know, that's fine. No, Steph T said, inventive, genre-breaking, edge of my seat, and all-around dark fun.
Woohoo!
Despite other reviews, I really encourage mystery fans to watch this. And then Sherry thought that Keith narrating was a little silly. And I'm like, no, that's where all the fun comes in.
That is the most amazing part. Because
that's where all the fun comes in.
It makes it like this weirdly dark Christmas story.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
All right. So
I think it's great.
Proper reviews. And
okay.
I mean, this one,
hit me.
Vulture from Roxana Hadidi. I really just think that people don't get it. The true story is wild, reflecting the laziness and corruption baked into the criminal justice system all over this country. And the thing about Pam's credit, its most refreshing quality is its refusal to downplay that ineptitude, which I'm like, that's great. She thought that Renee Zellweger was a bit of a distraction. I thought it was, I can see that because the prosthetics weren't perfect. But I know that Renee Zellweger had a lot of allergies to the prosthetics. She called it a very itchy role. But, and she had a problem that there's not a real difference between her smile and her frown, which I'm like, well, that's kind of the thing though. She says Zellweger plays Hupp like a passive aggressive Karen who strong arms people via her will. She strong arms people to her will via a mixture of guilt trips and performative self-pity. But there's a disconnect from the very beginning between Zellweger's unconvincing performance and the series' insistence that Hupp charmed and manipulated her small town neighbors. And I think that because there's only 6 episodes, they have to make Pam pretty unlikable from the get-go.
That might be true. I also wonder...
And I think also maybe they misunderstand that kind of small town person.
Okay, you're going where I'm going. I think you might have had to know somebody
like this, who's deeply unlikable, and yet you find it hard to say no to them.
Yeah.
Do you know how many deeply unlikable people I have a hard time saying no to in my life?
Or people
now, but a lot in the past.
Because we've gotten older, right? We've made some decisions. Mm-hmm. I would say that even so, like, there's even people I literally love to death who still have these passive aggressive tendencies, and it is hard to say no to them because you do love them, but that's the leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, unless I don't know. I think it really matters how much you've dealt with passive aggressive behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's part of it. I also think that maybe there is an element to this where there's a part of Pam that we're not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody talks about, well, she was just such a nice lady. She was a good friend. She was, she cared about her mom. She did, all these things. And to us as the viewer, seeing what we've seen, it seems disingenuous. But I think when your interactions with her are so limited as to she needs something from you or you provide something to her that she wants, she's utterly charming.
You don't realize that everything you're doing is actually being scored.
Right.
Until the score is uneven.
Yes.
And for people who are super passive aggressive like that, most people won't become uneven in the very daily volley of, I'm going to cook this dinner. I'm going to volunteer here. Oh, yes, I can do this for you. As long as this kind of remains like the status quo and kind of on a cadence and the ball kind of naturally backs and forths and does what it does, I don't think you realize it. It's only the people who trespass upon the I'm not doing this for you place, or I've offended you deeply. And now that person is going to keep up appearances for as long as necessary in order to screw you over. And in this case, it was murder. But for most of it, it's usually something, we have to grieve and just move on from. But if you know people like this, I think you get her character immediately. Yeah. If you don't.
I totally do.
I think I see why it's hard.
Yeah. Ben Travers of IndieWire kind of thought that the show got the criminal justice system right, but got Pam kind of wrong. He has issues that the main point he finds is that it's making fun of rather than, which I can see how you would take it that way, and I don't take it that way, but maybe because I've known women like Pam.
I've known women like Pam, and frankly, dark comedy is a version of satire in a way,
right?
So it's kind of one of those what else can you do but laugh situations,
right?
I mean, it's not that, but I get it,
right?
I could see how people might feel that way,
right? He said the preference is to revel in her stupid mistakes, as well as the police and the lead prosecutors, rather than find out who she is beyond the headlines. But I don't think that there is a lot. I mean, I feel like if you want to know who she is beyond the headlines, that's what the podcast is for. That's what the Dateline episodes are for. That's not what this show is for. This show is it's a new way for people who are primarily already familiar with the story.
Well, frankly, does it matter who she was behind all of the headlines to Betsy?
It doesn't. It doesn't matter to Betsy. It doesn't matter to the other man that she was convicted of murdering later.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to her mother.
Right.
Which we'll get to.
Like, seriously, I mean, I get that people have depth and whatever, but her actions are so just demonstrative.
And maybe there's nothing interesting in her beyond these actions.
If you know people like this, you know that they're fairly shallow. They're fairly shallow. Can I say that? Mm-hmm. They're fairly shallow.
Yes, they'll judge you for superficial things harshly because they believe that is all that anybody should be judged on.
Right.
That's all there is to judge. They
feel that way about themselves as well. The deep part of it is that it's such a projection. And so when it doesn't volley back the right way, that's when they pull up anchor and they screw you.
Right. If they can.
Or
they just get quietly mad because, you're not insecure in the same way I am.
Yeah. And I will find all of the ways to make you feel guilty.
Uh-huh.
All of the ways. And it won't stop at playing the victim. It won't stop at doing small little jabs and acting like it's for you. Whatever. Yeah. Let me stop now.
So Sierra Wardlow at RogerEbert.com. I'm just going to jump right into the next thing. That gives Jackie a good giggle. I appreciate that. All right. She thought that it would have been served better as a feature film, which I can see why NBC decided to go this route. They own the rights to it. They want to draw it out for as long as they can. They don't want to put the time and money behind a feature film when they can make 6 episodes instead of a 2-hour movie. And
6 episodes is more than 2 hours for the production quality is fan-freaking-tastic.
It really is.
So really, they could have chosen either way.
Yeah, but I see why they did it the way they did it. But anyway, the easy viewing procedural of it all with clearly delineated villainy and victimhood straight out of the gate makes for a story so straightforward that it has no choice but to spin in circles. On one hand, the Thing About Pam maintains a comedic edge. On the other, it often backs away from truly committing to the bit. You can almost feel the show fretting over how far is too far for an NBC series based on true crime involving real people, all of whom, except for Pam's victims, are still alive. Which I'm like, okay. But they didn't shy away from it in the podcast, but that's a different medium and a different audience.
Yeah.
Now, what they're trying to do is pull that podcast audience into this, which it worked. I listened to the podcast and here I am watching the show on the edge of my seat and laughing my butt off. The show's approach to Pam's character is so shallow and broad that there's nowhere for Renee Zellweger to go but a one-note mimicry, which I'm like, okay. But I think that's all that there was. I hate to say it, but I really think that's...
Other shows that are not dark comedy particularly, but other shows definitely take some artistic liberty with the characters to provide depth that probably isn't there, and we're probably used to it.
That's fair. So Renee Zellweger felt that levity was really important to make this show what it was meant to be, which is funny. And she did an interview with Variety and said, "The Thing About Pam isn't a morose true crime study. It's funny. It's slapstick. It's off kilter. It's narrated by Keith Morrison in a meta spoof of his Dateline episode, and it's hokey the way Fargo or I, Tonya is."
Yes.
It seemed important to introduce levity since you can't appreciate the absurdity of the story unless you can somehow unless you can see on the screen how ridiculous it is.
Yes.
It is. It's ridiculous. And on that note, we'll get to some of the ridiculousness with Is It True? Psychology Break in Real Life after this.
So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, in SA, we promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity or something I never thought of.
Is it true? So Russ Faria and Joel Schwartz worked with the writers to try and make sure that this was reasonably well told.
Okay.
So that gives me also like a little of I feel a way about it, that some of the people who knew Pam and knew about what was happening in this kind of had a opinion about it. So writers and showrunners spent about 60 hours with Russ and Joel to make sure that they were as truthful as they could be. And Russ said that he felt like they were successful. Pam does know that the show is being made, but has not commented on it because she is convicted of murder.
Yeah.
Not of Betsy's murder. We'll get there. It's a whole thing. Betsy did have 2 daughters. In the show, they're called Mariah and Lily. And in real life, they're Mariah and Leah. So they did not speak publicly until July of 2021 about their mother's death. And they're very private, as they should be. And I'm very glad about that. And that they both have, quote unquote, beautiful families. And they want their personal and professional lives to remain private, but they do exist and they are there. And Mariah, when she spoke to the press in July of 2021, confirmed that she was pregnant with a daughter that she was going to name Elizabeth Kay after her mother. And the due date was her mother's birthday.
Oh,
I'm like, that's so sweet. Feels very meant to be.
I can understand why they changed the name of Leah.
Yeah.
But the name Leah,
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, it's just a little too famous for a
Sure.
TV show. Lily would be
Yeah.
cause less connotation.
Sure.
And etc. I could
Sure.
see that. I could see that.
And then Pam also had 2 children. She does have a daughter named Sarah from her first marriage and a son named Travis from her marriage to Mark.
Family photo thing.
Yes, where she puts her hands in front of her face.
My daughter from my first marriage.
Don't we look happy? I mean, I think that tells you everything you need
to know.
Right. And they both also have avoided the limelight and seem to not be active on social media at all. Good for them.
Good for them.
You know, because their mom's criminal behaviors, affects them, unfortunately.
I know. I do have to say, I wish they would get a little portion of all this.
I mean, yeah.
I wish they would, because they deserve it.
Yeah, because they're victims.
They're victims. And they ought to get a little portion of this, Anyways, diatribe for another time.
Yep. So Betsy's daughter, Mariah, got a very fancy and expensive bit of furniture from her grandmother for Christmas 2011.
Those things are freaking expensive.
The love sacks are real and they are super expensive.
Stupid expensive.
So the cheapest one you can get is $625.
For a beanbag?
And it's marked. See, it's got a little person on the thing. It's like a small person, like child size.
That's insane.
So at minimum, she got probably the $875 one. Maybe even larger. To me, it looks more like the movie sack insert and cover.
I would say it's like a bigger one. Renee was, well, of course, Renee is small.
Right. But
she was also made up to be more
less small.
Less small.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yes.
I'm thinking if I were to fall into this sack,
I'm
thinking it's the medium one.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's the...
Yeah.
It's the 2-person.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because who wants an undersized beanbag chair? Nobody?
Let's talk about beanbag chairs to begin with.
Well, there's a reason why teenagers sit on them. Let's just put it that way.
For real. For
would have to roll out of it.
I mean, I have to literally roll out of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, which as a teenager seems fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem fun now.
No. So the police who arrived at the crime scene after Russ called 911 confirmed that there was what sounded ominous, a J4 at the scene. It's a definite J4. J4 just means fatality.
Okay.
That's all it means. It's just police code for fatality.
DOA, man.
Yeah,
DOA.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good.
Did the police forget to Mirandize Russ?
They totally did.
Well, they did in the show, but it seems that he actually waived his rights initially.
Knowingly?
Well,
because it seemed like they were playing some games.
I think
just happened you come down here to finish.
I bet so. I bet they asked him, they read him his rights and said, do you want a lawyer present? He's like, I didn't do anything, so why would I need a lawyer? But Helper Broom Law Firm has a blog where they talk about this case. And the officers secured the scene. Ferreira voluntarily went to the police station and waived his Miranda rights before speaking to the officers.
But he didn't know.
Well,
He didn't know.
He did and he didn't. And the way they show it in the show, I really think that they're playing it up a little bit for the ineptitude of the idea that the police decided who did it immediately. And
because they kind of like, oh, you're just coming downtown to talk about some things and finish things up. Like, it's almost like he thought he was like finishing details, like he was finishing details at a funeral home. Like it was just a matter of legal course to go down there and ask the final questions.
It seems that way.
Whatever. That's how they treated him.
Yes.
In the show.
Which is
my only, framework.
But I'm going to say, if you ever go somewhere and they're like, start to Mirandize you, stop talking. Get an attorney. Even if you're innocent.
Oh, that BS about like, well, do I need an attorney? Only if you're guilty. No, you need an attorney.
Yes.
Always. Every time.
Always.
Every time, always.
Especially if you're innocent. Especially if you're innocent. Pam's husband, Mark, marvels at the murder because Troy, Missouri seems like such a safe town. And I'm like, not so fast on the assumptions, buddy. Not so fast.
No, we've covered stuff like this previously.
Yes. Yes, we have.
About gated communities.
Exactly. You think it's safe? Not necessarily. But neighborhoodscout.com has some analytics about Troy, Missouri. They have it about a lot of places.
Yeah.
But it says the crime rate in Troy is considerably higher than the national average across communities in America. The chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime in Troy is 1 in 47. Relative to Missouri, Troy has a crime rate that is higher than 65% of the state's cities and towns of all sizes.
Wow.
So it's not really like super safe. It's not like super dangerous, but it's not super safe either.
How about that?
So Morningstar is indeed a real church, and the Frias did attend, and Mike Schreiner was and is the pastor.
Wow. I didn't expect that. Okay, that one surprises me.
Me too, because I found blessed Betsy's obituary. And she had... On Tuesday, January 3rd, 2012, she had a morning service at St. Patrick Catholic Church and an evening service at Morningstar United Methodist Church. Wow. She had 2 services because she grew up Catholic, but she and Russ, when they had issues, went to Morningstar, and they felt like it was necessary for her to have
a service.
Yeah, a service there as well. So
I understand.
But I thought they would have changed it. But
I thought they would have too.
Nope. I guess maybe it was so out there.
Oh,
they were just like,
just do it.
Yeah, this is well-known information.
Okay.
All right. All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. Psychology break. So Pam's character in the show, careful to say the character in the show, I don't know about her individually. I would imagine that there's some degree of truth to it, but I'm not going to diagnose her.
This is a podcast about entertainment crime.
That's right.
FYI and a reminder.
That's right.
Okay.
She's portrayed as having a very controlling personality.
You think? Personality disorders at their best.
Do you feel betrayed when others don't do what you want? Do you wrestle with trusting people? Do you have a history of combated relationships? Well, Psychology Today says you might have a controlling personality. And that it's driven often by high levels of internal anxiety.
Yep.
Which I'm like, that makes sense. The impulse to control serves as a protective function against feelings of vulnerability, which controlling people associate with powerlessness. And I would say Pam not only saw powerlessness as, or vulnerability as powerlessness, but also as an opportunity.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The good news is that people with controlling tendencies are often successful in their careers. That didn't seem to translate for Pam, but
she didn't focus it right.
Yeah, right. But the personal life of a controlling person tends to be a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. They did say that parenting styles can kind of contribute to it and foster it a little bit, which I hate saying that, but it makes sense when you look at there are three things that they say parenting styles they're a factor. They don't cause it.
Right.
But they're a factor. Love was conditional and achievement based.
Right.
Tasks were valued over relationships. Nurturing was unreliable and inconsistent.
Yep. It's hard when you start talking about parenting styles, especially when you're parents.
Right.
I think it's really hard to think about those. But the truth is, if you're really honest with yourself, you have issues with your parents. So why do you think that you're not going to have issues with your kids?
Yeah.
So, but the comforting thing is we're all in this.
Right.
Not a one of us escapes this paradigm.
Right.
The key is that at some point, children do have to grow up. Mm-hmm. And they have to have that moment or season where they realize their parents are more than just mom and dad.
Right. That
they're people.
Realized individuals who have their own flaws.
It's the same thing of when kids find their teachers outside of school and they realize they're like, oh my God, you're a real person. At some point, kids have to have a same experience with their parents, which is a little bit deeper and harder.
Yeah.
And then they have to go through that. And then they have to have either compassion or they end up with resentment.
Right.
Or they end up blaming their parents instead of realizing, oh, this is that.
Right.
And so I'm going to place that in its proper spot. And then I'm going to move forward and continue to move forward the way I think my parents would like to. I'm going to make so many mistakes.
Oh, yeah. But all you can do is hope that you make different mistakes than what your parents did.
Right. And then I hope that my kids grow up and go, I get it. I understand. I forgive you. I understand what you were trying to do. And you know what? That's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to be like, oh, thank God. I hope.
Right.
That's what I hope.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's what we all want. And some parents, like this chick right here, cause more problems because, well, there is a difference. Parents, hear me now. There is a big difference between normal parenting mistakes and having, a disorder.
Right.
That is
fair.
Different.
That's fair.
It's different.
It is different.
So if your kids, if you don't have a disorder and you are making mistakes within a typical range, a margin of error,
right. you're not
things,
screwing them
and your
up
and your
unduly.
kids aren't forgiving for you for that, then you just keep parenting.
Yeah.
Because you got this. But kids, if you're out there and you're dealing with a parent who has outside of a typical margin of error, you're dealing with something that's like a disorder.
Yeah.
I understand. Seek counseling.
Right. Yes.
Really seek
Yes.
counseling, because you will get through this and you'll see them for who they are as people who have disorders, and you can grow compassion for who they were and move past the trauma that they've given you.
Right.
You can. I say that as somebody who's done it.
Yeah. Good. Well, and if you find that you have a controlling personality, you're able to recognize it. There are things you can do.
Yes.
You can soften your approach. Don't make demands or threats. You can make requests or give choices between two things that maybe they don't want to do either one, but at least they have an option.
Yeah.
Foster cooperation. Give and take. Don't just demand obedience. That can help. And also tend to your own anxiety. Clean your own house so that you're not controlling from a place of anxiety.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if you find yourself constantly blaming others, then the first thing you need to realize is that you are valued and loved
Yeah.
for who you are.
Yeah.
You
Which is
know
hard if you've grown up with
Yes.
a family who's given you only conditional love.
Right. Like realizing that and that's why certain people seek spiritual services, but like you need to realize that you're valued and loved for who you are, and that if something doesn't get done, you are not less valuable as a human being.
Yes.
And welcome to the way the rest of us feel and operate.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's okay, and we love you anyways. And if you can know that, maybe that'll free you
Yeah.
to not have to control another person.
Yeah. Because it often doesn't work. So why did Pam assumably murder Betsy? Greed.
Greed.
Yeah. So on Knowledge, Leadership and Organizations blog asks the question, Manfred Ketz-de-Vries, is greed destroying your soul? And he starts off with this really astute subtitle. Greed is less about accumulating wealth than it is about filling an inner void.
Oh.
I'm like,
Man.
well, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. And he said that evolutionary biologists tend to believe that greed has a purpose, that when we amass status signaling possessions, that allows us to attract a mate.
Yeah.
It has an evolutionary purpose, but he said, I prefer to look at greed as a coping mechanism. In my interactions with greedy people, I have observed that many are trying to fill an inner void or to solve another emotional problem. The behavior of greedy people can be compared to that of substance abusers, but just like drugs, material possessions can never provide the comfort and reassurance that we all crave.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was, when you look at it that way, boy, it gives you some empathy for people who are doing things out of greed, where they're coming from a place of lacking in some way.
Right.
They're often lacking emotionally.
Right.
And trying to fill that.
And trying to fix themselves.
But still.
And yet, most of us who struggle with insecurity or any of these issues don't murder people.
Exactly.
So there is a difference.
Exactly. Real life. So, if Pam murdered Betsy, it wasn't an uncalculated choice. The Law Dictionary says defines premeditated murder. The term that is used to describe a murder that was planned in advance and was carried out willfully. I think we can totally see how it was planned out in advance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she framed Russ. She made all these phone calls to try and then
all of the alibis.
and then bungled the alibis still.
Oh, I know, right? Still bungled it completely.
And showed a fundamental misunderstanding of what can be tracked on a cell phone.
Oh, for sure.
Pam calls Betsy and offers to bring her some special suckers.
Yeah.
Yep. And they might be Preggy Pops.
Yeah.
Or something similar. Yep. Well-known treatment for morning sickness. I remember when they first came out because I was pregnant with my first and felt gross. And they had little Preggy Pop drops. They helped. Ginger and lemon and contain vitamin B6. All of those things can be soothing. And they are also helpful for all types of morning sickness. It can be not just morning sickness, as in the name Preggy Pops, but cancer treatment or travel sickness that can help with that. And then they said that there are other supplements that can be used for treating morning sickness. I didn't know melatonin and Unisom can help with morning sickness.
Oh, yeah. Perfect timing.
That's right.
Sorry. That is interesting.
I mean, I guess if you're better rested, then but I wouldn't have taken Unisom while I was pregnant, but maybe melatonin.
Maybe for sleepy, it doesn't.
Maybe I don't know. But I don't know why they work. But
my quote morning sickness was usually in the evening.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a nausea as much of it as it was a general malaise.
Oh.
So I don't know how much it would have helped me, but
I had queasy all day and malaise at night.
Yeah.
It was great.
Oh, yay.
That's why I only have 2 children. So Betsy mentioned that she missed her kids because they were living with Betsy's mom.
Yeah.
She says as much that Mariah since she was still in high school, the district was much better where her mom lived. And I get the impression that also she was ill and they were kind of trying to protect her, make it a little easier. They didn't have to worry about the kids being home. They had a real stable environment, especially since Betsy was pretty gravely ill at this point. But if you want to do this for your own child, make sure you know the rules.
Yeah.
Respectcaregivers.org has a whole article about this. And it says every state and even every school district will have their own residency requirements as to who can attend the school if they don't live in the area. The good news is that many states do not require a caregiver like a grandparent to have legal custody of the child to enroll in the school in their area. So, and they talk about how Texas, where we live, has, if they're providing significant before and after care at a school, you can have the child go to school where the grandparents are. But you really do have to sign an affidavit under penalty of perjury that this other person is the primary caregiver. Yep. So you can't just say that their kids live with them when they really don't and do the pickup and drop off or whatever, because you can get a very large fine for this and they can be expelled from their school, which is a difficult thing to recover from sometimes.
Right.
Less so maybe when it's not behavioral.
Yeah, probably. But still,
even still, They don't feel like they can trust you as a parent to do the right thing. So, just make sure you know the rules and don't break them. In the show and in the real investigation, the believability of Russ's behavior on the 911 call was questioned.
Yeah.
So the operator who took the call did not find it questionable. She spoke out in 2014. So this was post Russ's conviction, but prior to his exoneration. And she spoke with Fox 2 Now in St. Louis. The article talks about how they were trying to paint Russ as this evil natured person and that he was really faking it. But the jury didn't actually get to hear from the 911 operator who talked to him. Yes. Her name is Tammy Vaughn, and she was with Russ on the phone for the entire 10 minutes that it took from when he called to when the police got there. In court, a 911 supervisor testified that it was unusual the way Faria went in and out of his hysteria, and the jury was led to believe that 911 operators also thought this was odd, but the prosecution never called the actual operator. She says, You can't fake that. You can't fake that emotion. In my personal opinion, you can't. There are people out there who can do it. I don't know, because the calls I have taken have always been true hysterical callers. And then she goes on to talk about her training. She said, it's a redirection. It's a technique that communicators use to train, redirect, and calm them down. Ask them a question, and whenever they have to focus back on the victim or the patient or the person that's there needing help, they do what's called a refreak. Mm-hmm. And so she said that happened, that to her training helped calm him down until where are you located to get the information that you need. Mm-hmm. You have to calm him down. But then as soon as he remembered my wife is dead, he freaked out again.
Right.
And so that is common behavior, not abnormal.
I'm so glad to hear this, because when I was watching this, and they were all like, "Oh, that's over the top." I thought, "Am I crazy?" Because that doesn't feel over the top to coming home to seeing that.
No,
at all.
No.
Yeah, like at all.
No, not at all.
Okay. All right. Well then, good.
Yeah. As of July 2021, the actions of the police and prosecutors in the case of Betsy Faria's death have been called into question. I don't know why it took that long. KSDK.com from July of 2021. Greed was the motive for the murder of Betsy Faria, and ego was the motive for the prosecutors and police to convict her innocent husband of the crime, according to Lincoln County Prosecutor Michael Wood. This was the poorest example of investigative work I or members of my team have ever seen. Ooh. It was driven by ego and a prosecutor who was working toward an agenda rather than the truth. This is an extremely compelling circumstantial case, one that is difficult to deny, yet the prosecutors and investigators denied it all the same. Since then, Russ Faria has won a $2 million settlement in his wrongful conviction. Uh-huh. And the investigator Wood didn't name the police officers he intended to investigate, but they're investigating them all the same.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yep.
Good.
At one point, Pam was ironing money.
Thank you. I was wondering if we were going to speak on this, because this bothered me immensely, almost as much as the stupid comb.
It's so weird.
Why was she doing this?
Okay, well, I don't know why she was doing it, but treasurepursuits.com has a whole article about why you might iron your money. And it's primarily for collectors. But Pam was doing it wrong.
Yeah.
She was just ironing it and put a hole in it or whatever. Yeah, now, money in the U.S. is made of 75% cotton and 25% linen. And then may also be some other fibers in there now for security reasons. Right. So you want to be super careful, because some of those security features are plastic and you literally melt your money. So what you really want to do is you want to wash the bills, which I'm guessing that's what she was doing. I don't know why. Maybe she was very concerned about germs or something. But you can wash them in your washing machine, tied into a lingerie bag or whatever. You can do it in the sink or whatever.
Okay.
And now, of course, there's reasons why you might want to do this for collectors' money.
Okay.
But at the same time, you don't want to decrease their value by washing them. So you might clean them with carbon dioxide. There's some special carbon dioxide process. I don't know why she was doing it, but however you do it, you should dampen the money with like a little spray bottle or whatever. And then you put something with a natural fiber over top of the bills before you iron them, so that you don't do what she exactly did, which was put a hole in it.
Yeah, and then she went downstairs and she put money in her little piggy bank that says Pam's money.
Oh, I thought it said Paris.
Pam, money sign, money sign.
Oh, I thought it was Paris. I thought it was Paris money, because she complained about the mom's friend, Betsy's mom's friend, who was from Texas. And she said, it's like she's from France or something. Like, we're supposed to be impressed.
No, I thought it said Pam's.
Oh, maybe it was Pam's money. I thought it said Paris money.
Interesting.
that would make sense. But
Yeah. Anyway, she was freaking ironing money.
Don't iron your money. Don't iron your money. It's dumb.
Yeah, like nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Okay, so saying that your mom is worth more dead than Betsy is a weird way of saying you're innocent, Pam. CrimeReads.com has a whole article about this bizarre confession that she made.
Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense at all.
I mean, and Joel Schwartz, the attorney for West Virginia, was like shocked when he heard this. He was like, could not even believe.
Yeah.
Pam says, and I hate to say, if I wanted money, my mom's worth $500,000, and I get that when she dies. My mom has dementia and doesn't half the time know who we are. I know this sounds morbid and stuff like that, but I'm a life insurance person. But if I really wanted money, there are easier ways than trying to combat somebody that was physically stronger than me. I'm just saying. Like, what?
Anytime you have to say just saying, yeah.
Don't. Yeah.
Don't do that.
Had she just actually weighed the options of killing her mother or Betsy? Had she actually pondered her level of risk in each option? I'm like,
yeah, she did.
Yeah, of course she did. And she still told it to the police, and the police did such a bad job that they didn't see this as a red flag when it was clearly the largest of red flags being waved right in front of their face.
She was doing that passive aggressive stuff.
That's very true. So Pam was convicted of murder, but not Betsy's murder. And many believe that Pam had something to do with her mother's death as well.
Mm-hmm. I can believe that.
That $500,000 that she talked to the police about?
Yeah.
Yeah, she ended up getting that. So her mother was Shirley Newman, was found on the lawn of the senior retirement community where she lived. Mm-hmm. She had lived on the 3rd floor and had a balcony and had fallen off. But Pam was the last person to see her alive.
Okay.
Though later on in the show, you'll see that Pam in the show says she's tired. She may not be down for breakfast or lunch.
Okay.
And what she really said was, if Mom doesn't come down for breakfast, call us. Shirley missed both breakfast and lunch, and nobody had called Pam about it, but they found her in the afternoon. The weird thing was that if she had just tripped over the top of the balcony, if she wouldn't have really tripped over top of it. She'd have to have climbed over it.
Right.
And you would think if there was damage to the balcony railing in some way, that it would be the top of the railing, right? That was undamaged. But the slats that held up, that went between the top of the railing and the bottom of the railing were pushed out, maybe kicked out. Maybe she was heavy and she wasn't able to be lifted over the railing. So things were kicked out to push her out. Anyway, and she had 8 times a prescribed dose of Ambien in her body.
Oh.
So the idea that she would have been heavy and hard to move would have made sense.
I mean, but at that point, just let her in her bed. It's an OD, plain and simple.
She had dementia. Anyway, so Dateline questioned this. It was them who did the questioning. And initially, it was ruled an accident and Pam got all the money. And then Dateline questioned it. And then, no, she was never charged with anything. But St. Louis County Medical Examiner's Office changed the manner of Shirley Newman's death from accidental to undetermined.
Okay.
So they said it just wasn't clear any longer that it was accidental.
Unclear. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. Pam now, well, we know she's in prison. But they finally charged her in Betsy's murder in July 2021. Hey! Get this.
Okay.
This article, again, from Fox 2 Now in St. Louis. Hupp was scheduled to have her preliminary hearing in February of 2022 for the Betsy Faria murder charge. It's been delayed indefinitely because her public defender just died of a heart attack. A new defense attorney must now get up to speed on 10 years worth of evidence.
Oh, who doesn't? I mean, but how?
Okay, so I get that it's a lot of information. Can I say I have a little suspicions?
Yes, I have suspicions.
But how? I mean, I don't know how she would do it, but I mean,
really, statistically speaking, it could happen.
Oh, of course.
Right? It's not like it, but
it's just, when you got 3 deaths on the table that are suspicious
she wasn't really
already.
Good at any of them. So
She wasn't.
That would have been a little too smooth.
There you go. But I was like, are you kidding me? Unbelievable.
Well, at least he has a show to watch.
That's there you go. All right, so next time, Toni Collette is hiding many, many secrets in the Netflix original Pieces of Her. So we're going to dive into that.
I'm excited. Yeah.
So it's twisty and turny. It's twisty and turny in the first episode, and it gets twistier and turnier from there. So
woohoo!
Super fun. And until then, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Da, da, da.